The following is brought to you by the Starfleet Podcast Network, SPN, The Spin. BigJ's beef. Really with what I like to call BigJ's beef is there's something in Star Trek news or in an episode that I just kind of have a problem with. It may not be something that adds up right. Could be a little crazy, whatever it may be. So for those of you watching or listening, I'm joined here with Erin from the podcast Tribbles and Transporters. And I am Big J with Beyond Trek Podcast. And I'm doing a segment here that I've created called Big J's Beef. So Erin, let's start out with this. Why don't you tell the audience here a little bit more about you and about Tribbles and Transporters?
Absolutely. Tribbles and Transporters came about when my friend Sarah, who I met when I worked in another city, she asked if I would be interested in doing a Star Trek podcast because we were both Trekkies and we grew up with Star Trek since we were kids. And we eventually roped in Sarah's friend Megan, and now there are three of us. So we are three gals who are trekking our way through the universe, and we do overviews of episodes. So we're going through the completed series, as we like to call them, the ones that are already have had series finales. And we are going in a cycle from TOS all the way through Enterprise, and then we throw in some topic episodes. And it's a great fun time. We review the episodes. We do a quiz where we quiz each other on who was paying attention watching the episode.
I like a good quiz.
Then we also have what we call our music challenge, which is where Sarah chooses a piece of Star Trek music, and Megan and I have to try and narrow down where it comes from. And sometimes that's just as general as, I'm pretty sure that comes from the original series. Yes. And other times it's come down to, oh yes, I actually know the track name of that because I have the soundtrack. So it is X, Y, or Z. So,
and I was there for that because you were, and I've been on, and you were on also a podcast called Highly Illogical,
yes,
which does Star Trek trivia. And I've been on there a couple times and been in the one episode that you were on, that you and your three friends were on with the music. I thought I knew a lot about Star Trek.
Yeah.
I've been a fan since '82 with Wrath of Khan, seen all of it, every episode, every movie. And when it came to the music stuff, I got my ass kicked. It was just like, oh my God, yeah, I've heard it. I don't know what episode it's from, or, it's like, yeah, I should know this, but wow, I got pasted with that one. So
yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of Megan and I going, oh man.
Yes. I knew that one.
Yeah. And, we get a laugh in here and there. Several times I have said, I don't think I've heard that one. I'm not sure I've seen it because I haven't seen most of Enterprise. I've barely seen a couple of episodes of Discovery. So there's things like that Sarah can pull from. And I have not seen it. But then, of course, there was the one time where she pulled up the theme song to Prodigy, which I have watched some of.
Right.
Love the theme song for it. But it turns out that if you go to the soundtrack, there is a kind of prelude to the theme song.
Oh, is there?
Yes. So it's actually very pretty. It's almost completely French horn. And
I did not know that.
It's haunting and beautiful. And Sarah played that one. And I said, I don't know that. I think this comes from a series I haven't watched any of because I don't recognize this at all. And Sarah was laughing her head off because, of course, I'm the only one of the three of us who has watched some of Prodigy. Which is
a good show.
It is. I've quite enjoyed it. But one thing that I'm dealing with, I'm actually in Canada.
Canada, eh?
Yep.
I'm sure you hear that all the time. Why don't I even do that? That's not original.
Right. Yeah, But I always say that all things Star Trek need to have at least a Canadian or two, because of course we started off with William Shatner being in Star Trek, and also James Doohan. We're both Canadians. So I like to say that I'm the token Canadian on our show to have a Canadian in Trek.
I think people might forget that. I often kind of forget that William Shatner's Canadian.
Yeah.
So...
And there's lots of others in a lot of the other series. But one of the things that makes it a little difficult for me is our licensing of the episodes and things is different. So the new Star Trek is mostly playing on our version of Sci-Fi Channel.
Okay.
And so you can actually watch it live on TV. And I typically, with Picard, I've been recording it, but for some reason my recordings were not recording correctly, and I was missing the last couple minutes of each episode.
Is that Sky Network or is that UK?
Sky is UK.
Sky is UK. Which one's Canada?
Ours is CTV.
Yes. Okay. I didn't know that. Yep. CTV.
So CTV is the one that has Sci-Fi.
Right.
Then we have, other specifically Canadian networks. But so I got partway through watching the first season of Prodigy, and life interrupted. I had to wait, and I went, okay, I have time. I'm going to watch the next episode. And they didn't have it on demand anymore.
Oh, that hurts.
And it's also not on our version of Paramount Plus because because the licensing for playing it in Canada belongs to CTV Sci-Fi.
Oh, that just gets messy. Why can't it?
So all I can watch of it are the clips and the previews and stuff. So
that's no fun.
There are some things like that we've had to work around. And, there was one time where Sarah had to find somewhere for me to link with a VPN or something to watch an episode of Picard. So because I wasn't able to watch it on demand.
We will pirate it. If we can't watch it, we will find a way to watch it.
Exactly. So, but I mean... It's one of those things where, it wasn't Picard, it was Strange New Worlds, because that's also a similar issue. They're done their season, so bye-bye. Oh. It's not on CTV Sci-Fi anymore. I
have a solution for you. I just thought of this that would solve all your issues there, all of them. Move to the United States. Now, I'm going to say that that's not ideal. I'll admit it. Who wants to be here? But you get Star Trek with no strings attached.
But on the flip side of that, I have the completed series on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
So
we just lost it on Netflix.
Yeah,
not too long ago.
So most of our watching for our podcast, because we are going, we do TOS one episode, TNG the next episode, everything. I'm able to just go right to Netflix, pull it up, watch whatever episode I feel like.
Okay.
Now, who knows when that's going to change?
Right. Watch them all soon and take notes, because when you go to do your next episode review, it won't be there for some reason or another.
Yeah. But, I also have my brother has quite a few of he has movies on Blu-ray and stuff like that. So when I went, we did an episode on one of the original series movies, and we had our listeners vote on which one they wanted us to talk about. And of course, it was an almost even tie between Voyage Home and Undiscovered Country. So 4 and 6. So we did a literal coin toss, and we ended up watching Voyage Home. And which
can't go wrong.
No, exactly. I mean, the one with the whales. Everybody knows that one.
Everyone knows. If someone does not know anything about Star Trek, they know the one with the whales.
Yeah. And
very easily accessible. So if you were to say we could do 2, 4, 6, pick one, flip a coin. It doesn't matter. You can't pick wrong with any of those.
Yeah. And that's where we kind of came down on, we did an episode, I just re-listened to it recently, of talking about a few of our favorite things within the Star Trek universe. And one of the categories was favorite TOS movie. Sarah or Megan and I came up with Undiscovered Country, and Sarah had to go with Voyage Home because she's a stickler for comedy. So you get maximum comedy out of that one as far as Star Trek is concerned.
Now, folks, we're talking about Voyage Home comedy, not Final Frontier comedy. Let me just do the rabbit ears while I'm sticking to my table here. Jeez. So, yeah, rabbit ears comedy.
Yeah.
So, now, let me ask you this, and I'm hoping the answer is yes, but have you seen the season finale or series finale for Star Trek Picard?
I have.
Okay. Now, you said that your recorder, whatever it is, cuts off the last couple minutes.
Well, thankfully, because it was a currently running series, I was able to get it on demand. Okay. So, yes. Yeah.
Because if you had got the last couple minutes cut off of that episode.
Yeah, I would have lost something pretty important there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we're going to talk about that. We've got lots of words here. Well, this was an episode, and I want to start with your thoughts on it, but I will say this real quick to start off. There are not many episodes. I don't think there's been any Star Trek episode that I have watched for the second time right after the first time. It was like the first time was Thursday, and then later that night or the next day, watch it again. Now, that's not to say if I'm channel surfing and I come across an episode of Star Trek, I'll watch it. I'll watch any episode that's on. It doesn't matter. But for me to do that, that's something special. I don't think I've ever immediately within 24 hours watched a full episode again. So I'd like to hear your impressions on it before I get to my part, because there's a couple things I had a problem with, and I did it. I'm kind of double dipping. I did a BigJ's Beef recording, came out Saturday morning, but I got more. I slept on it and I decided, you know what? Okay, I missed something. I've got a little more. I've got a second serving of beef I want to go through. So that's why I'm double dipping. You're helping me with that.
Excellent.
So what were your impressions of the episode?
Well, I will say I had the inclination to do the same thing you did, but I didn't have the time, unfortunately. So I have not gone back for my second watch, but I will be at some point because I was trying to fit in watching it around a busy schedule. And, I really want to have a chance to pay really close attention to it. So, I very much enjoyed this episode of Picard. Of course, there was so much in there that was, I hate to call it fan service to TNG fans and things like that, because that makes it sound like it was cheap or, pandering to us or something. No, it was absolutely the right references and the right callbacks and the things that we wanted to see them put in this series with the TNG cast being back together. So I really enjoyed those portions of it. And anybody who is just meeting me for the first time won't know, but I am a Voyager fan. And so anything Voyager to me is like, I just love it. So having Seven be such a prominent part in this series, and Jerry Ryan is amazing. She has taken this character on a enormous arc.
Absolutely. You don't get to do an arc that often like that.
No.
You've got Michael Dorn gets a huge Worf arc.
Yep.
And Jerry Ryan with 7 of 9. And sure, you could say a couple others, but honestly, that's one hell of an arc that she's able to do.
Yeah. And she's really grown that character. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of that is down to the writers and stuff, but it's up to her to bring that character to life. And she does it beautifully. And I'm saying that as someone who wasn't a huge fan of Seven when she first joined the series of Voyager.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think partly I had some of the same feelings that I believe kind of fueled the little bit of problems that there were between Kate Mulgrew and Jerry Ryan at the beginning.
Yes.
You know, a lot of you laid this huge groundwork of these really strong, not overly sexualized female characters.
Mm-hmm.
And then the producers do that.
It was 90s Trek at its core with Rick Berman and Brandon Braga running the show. They were all about the voluptuousness of characters and going for a demographic that they believed was there that necessarily wasn't, or at least was not their main audience. They're going for the eye candy. I totally get it. If I was Kate Mulgrew, yeah.
I mean, she and Roxanne Dawson, and to some extent, her name is escaping me. I'm so sorry, but Kes as well. Yeah. I always say her name wrong too. I have heard Garrett Wong and the others say it. And
it's right
I always
there.
say it wrong. Yeah.
It's right there. Oh man.
It's awful. I mean, her face is right in my mind and everything. But you know, they laid a fantastic groundwork for having more than just a couple of female characters in there and not having them be, you know, all
Jennifer Lien.
Thank you.
It's spelled Lien, his last name. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but
I believe I've heard people pronounce it lean.
Lean. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. That was going to bug me. But yes.
I did that without looking it up, folks. Okay,
excellent. So like to me, there was one episode. Now this was long after Jerry Ryan had proved her credentials and played that character through any of the sort of visual references and things like that. I mean, she created that character and made her strong despite what the producers and things were trying to use her for. And there was an episode where she had to go kind of undercover and they put her in a Starfleet uniform. And it was a completely different effect. Yes. And it was just like, if they had done that, and if she didn't want to wear a Starfleet uniform, something similar, she would have been just as beautiful.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
She's gorgeous. And you wouldn't have had the animosity of people like me, who as a high school student was looking at Janeway and going, I want to be her.
Right.
Because she is someone who is allowed to be intelligent and strong, and she's a scientist, which I had scientific leanings, and also feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I saw in Voyager. And like I say, Jerry Ryan worked through. she worked through that catsuit. I mean,
which is very difficult to do. From what I've read stories of, was that there were several instances where she lost consciousness on set because the thing was so damn tight.
Yeah. Well, there was a corset under it. And I am someone who I'm into cosplay and fashion history and stuff like that. And so there's a difference between good corsets and bad corsets. And apparently the vast majority of Hollywood ones are bad because their entire goal is make this actress as small as possible.
Gotcha. And those are the bad corsets.
Those are the bad ones.
Okay.
And not to say that good ones can't give you reduction, but they do it in the time-tested way that has worked for, corsets were worn for hundreds of years.
Right.
By every European woman, pretty much.
Yeah.
So obviously they weren't these awful.
I say that like I know that.
Yes. And I'm saying this like I know it, but I just happen to be a fan of YouTube channels and things like that, of actual clothing historians who have done this research and who actually have made and worn corsets themselves and say that if you do it right. But apparently in Hollywood, costume designers, are not being allowed to make them correctly. They're being forced by directors and visual directors and things like that to make them in ways that are not comfortable for the actresses. Hence, we get Jerry Ryan getting lightheaded because they put her in this super tight corset where she could barely breathe. And, as if she needed to be smaller than she already is.
Right.
To me, she's gorgeous as is.
If there's anything I could tell you that in this series, in Picard, that she looks better now than she did on Voyager. So
I agree.
What does that tell you? That tells you that the appeal for a strong feminine character is not up there. It does not. It's not right in the chestal area. It's we've got up top in the brains, and they didn't get it. It was a man's club back then, and now.
And I think they were leaning back on a lot of, if you look back at the original series and at early TNG, a lot of that was in there. I mean, it was how risque can we be and still be on TV and considered a sci-fi show for prime time and not, relegated to a midnight slot or something.
Yes.
And
a midnight death slot.
Yeah. So this is a long tangent that we've gone on to say that I really appreciated anything Voyager that came in here. I got goosebumps every time the Voyager theme played, even if it was just mildly threaded through the background music. I loved seeing Tuvok. I loved that turn of play that we had with the Changeling being so good at fooling them that he almost got it past them.
Yes, that was spectacular. I think that for the Changelings, the way that they did them for this series, they had become a lot more refined, a lot more. You couldn't, and who knows how long. Okay, let me backtrack that just a little bit now, and I'm going to use the Changeling that did Tuvok as an example. Were they in it for so long, and was the real Tuvok, where was he? Was he gone or missing? Was this Changeling Tuvok long enough to research enough of this person to be able to, because to answer questions, personal questions like that, things that are not in logs, you have to be that person. And he almost had them fooled still. It's kind of like, takes me back to Thomas Riker in the DS9 episode Defiant. Well, he came across Chief O'Brien, who he knew it was kind of oh shit, this guy was on the Enterprise. Yeah. If I engage in any kind of conversation with him, it's over. So he jumps the gun, throws him off, say, I don't have anything to say to you. I think you know why. It's like befuddle him quick and get out of there, because the smallest personal thing, you could throw him on. And so that's what I was wondering with the Tuvok Changeling is, How were they that good?
They had Tuvok.
Yeah.
That was the thing. They had him somewhere. Mm-hmm. And that is what, when Seven finally clocked that this guy is a changeling by throwing out something that Tuvok would immediately see as incorrect, and the changeling agreed with her. Mm-hmm. That, she finally saw through it, and she said, all right, you know things that only Tuvok would know. Where is he?
Yes. Right.
And then I did like the fact that we get that kind of return at the end of, yes, they did end up rescuing the people that the changelings had been holding.
Thank God, that is good. And to go back to something you said earlier in regards to the fan service thing, I don't think that has to be a bad thing, using that word. I really think that there was a time, and probably still is, where you hear the word fan service and you're just thinking, well, just throwing out something that the fans will like, but it's a negative thing. No, this was fan service, and it was a good fan service, because they went ahead and, now I grew up with the next generation. Yeah. But still, that doesn't mean that I don't like anything Star Trek. I like all of it. It's just that this was the crew I grew up with. Mm-hmm. When it first started. I was at a very young age, so this was what I was used to. And it really felt like we were, this entire season, they kept bringing in all the surprises. And it really felt like, and up to this last episode, it was a much, much better send-off for this crew than Nemesis was.
Yeah.
By far, easily. And the thing that and this is kind of goes a little bit into something that I talked about in my last one I want to ask you about. I think I have a little bit of a problem with how easily and accepting Jack Crusher was of being assimilated. To me, that's kind of a little scary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it did seem like there should have been more convincing, or he should have perhaps resisted, maybe had some fear. But it did seem like he just kind of stood there and was like, oh, I guess you're right. I mean, yes, he did have the thought back to when he talked to Picard without Picard knowing who he was, and Picard saying, well, I don't need any family but Starfleet, basically. Mm-hmm. And so Jack, other than his mom, he hasn't had any family that we know of. So when the Queen is offering him the ultimate family, I can see him considering it and responding perhaps with a, well, maybe, and then maybe them springing assimilation on him.
Right.
But to then just stand there and be like, oh, well, okay, I'll take it.
Right. Yeah. He struck me as the kind of person that, if this is what's needed to save others, because he came off to me as a very selfless kind of person. The whole season, he was trying to give himself up. He did not want people fighting for him, losing their lives for him.
Yeah.
So he definitely struck me as if I need to be assimilated to save people, then I'll be assimilated. But the thing is that then he was directing the whole attack on everything else. So it seemed like, he was, I think, seduced into thinking that this is the way to do things.
Yeah.
And this is how it needs to happen, which is, of course, the Queen's doing. But I did think that was, to me, a little unnerving that he didn't seem to resist it. Like he accepted it.
Yeah. Which, I mean, there was a little bit of build up to him seeing other people tell him basically, oh, well, no, we need to protect you. We need to restrict you in order to to help everyone else. And he thought, well, what makes you know what's best? Maybe what's best is for me to go with this thing. So, and that's why he went off to find whatever was calling him.
Right.
But yeah, I will say, now I'm kind of weird in that I watched the first season of Picard and the last season. I did not watch the second season. So I am missing pieces. I know I am.
Yes.
But first of all, I did not see the changelings coming. So
No.
I loved that surprise.
Yes, didn't see that coming at all.
Oh, by the way, we're bringing the changelings back. But then also I did not see the thing in Jack's brain being the Borg at all. That was not even on my radar.
Didn't see, not one bit. Didn't see the change. But see, here's what I do. I will watch the season preview or the season teaser of whatever, but I won't watch the episode by episode preview.
Yeah.
Not that one. So all these things were just like, boom, oh my God, the changelings are back. Boom, the Borg. Holy hell, they're in a team up against Starfleet. Like, none of this. Everything was a shock. But the way that they ended it, and this was the main thing that I wanted to talk about. I'm going to have a big problem if we don't get Star Trek Legacy.
Yeah.
Now, from what I hear, it was just a pitch, but here's the thing, and it's going to go back to what you're saying with fan service. Here's my prediction. I think that this, what they did this season, and with having the surprise guest be Commander Rowe, so Michelle Forbes came back for that.
Yep.
Having Tim Russ return as Tuvok. A couple different episodes, to having the TNG cast basically be the forefront of the season. I think that it was a gauge as to see if we were to have a series that included elements of TNG, DS9, Voyager, how would that play off? And I think that it would be spectacular.
Yeah.
What's the question here? Where you can't go wrong. You've got the Enterprise G. Yep. Seven as captain. Jack Crusher as the special counsel to the captain. Yep. Raffi as the first officer, which is great. LaForge's daughter as a pilot. Yep. You have all these characters you could pull from everywhere else. Give me Dr. Bashir. Give me Garrick. Yep. Find a way to get me Cisco. Give me Tom Paris. Give me some Ensign Kim. Because I'm telling you, I'm sure he's still an ensign. Yes. It's been 30 years since Voyager came back, and the guy probably still hasn't gotten a damn promotion. But really, give us all of it. Yeah. Right in the veins, more. I don't see how this would be a bad idea. Yeah. At all.
Did you catch the Chekhov in this episode? I loved that.
Yes, Walter Koenig came back, voiced the role.
Yep. Amazing.
It was.
Oh, I was like, wait a minute. That's his Chekhov. Yeah. Oh, and then I didn't peg that he was actually doing the role until he slipped into the accent.
Yes. Yep. I heard once you get the accent slip. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was amazing. I loved that. I mean, and we had little moments of that all through this series. Little moments of, going back to the first season, and we see Icheb. And
right.
As a Voyager fan, I recognized that Borg implant, and I went, "That's Icheb," as an adult.
Yes.
And little things like, of course, I loved any time they dropped Admiral Janeway's name,
right?
And having Tuvok back. I loved all of that. Ro was one of my favorite characters in TNG. I went for Halloween as Rolarin one time.
You did?
Okay. As a kid. It was great. Thinking back on it, so all of this stuff. And I think, our generation, the ones who grew up with TNG flowing straight into DS9, flowing straight into Voyager. Now, unfortunately, I have to admit, I'm one of the people who is kind of Star Trek burnt out. Plus, I was in college and didn't have a TV at the time.
Oh.
So I did not get into Enterprise.
Right. You didn't miss a whole lot.
Well, I've been enjoying it as we've been reviewing it for the podcast. So each episode is brand new to me as we come to it. And I'm enjoying it. I think I'm in the right mindset, the right age, the right life experience level and everything for Enterprise right now. It's hitting the way I think it should. But to my point is all of those references and all of those things, like that is your big fan base right now. And to put all those things out there and then to end the show off on a poker game, which is just, that was fantastic. And all of those references that people like you and me and Sarah and Megan and everyone in our age group and who grew up with these shows are going to love it if you do it right. And to me, well, there are some things that I kind of was a little iffy on with the overarching of Picard, but in general, I think they handled it properly.
Let me tell you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was it. Yep.
So let me tell you something about the poker game. Mm-hmm. Okay. This is funny. I almost did not sit through the entire credits for the poker game. Mm-hmm. And anyone I hope to God, if you're listening to this or watching this, that you've seen the episode, we're full of spoilers. So it's not on us. If you hear something you didn't want to hear yet, it's a spoiler show. But
if at this point you did not sit through the credits, go back and do so.
Right. Yes. Go back and watch the credits. That's the takeaway here. I almost didn't. I thought any moment now it's going to fade to black or something. But then I said, okay, so this scene isn't ending. We're doing the poker thing. Now I want to watch it because this looks like, I like those long shots in scenes or movies where it's just, because I start thinking about what went in behind this. Okay, when we say action, this is a 5-minute take.
Yeah.
These are all the things you got to get right, because you've seen those movies that are like the single take movies, or maybe two, and I'm just fascinated with that because it seems to be very challenging. So they're doing this game, this whole thing, and just as it was ending, I had my finger over the stop button. It's like, yeah, this is a great episode. This is awesome. Yeah, that was a good poker game. Oh, wait a minute. And so then we get Q, which I had a loud gasp, covered. I was just like, oh my God. And that's the joy of, now I don't know if I'm sure that this wasn't shown at all in an episode preview. They wouldn't do that.
No,
but
I can't imagine.
No way. So for me, I think that this series finale, I don't need Picard season 4.
Yeah.
Don't need it. I've seen a couple things online talking about, what do we know about season 4 of Picard? We don't know jack. I don't need it. What I want is...
It wasn't supposed to be. Patrick Stewart said 3 seasons. That's what I'm giving you.
Here's what we don't need a season 4. We need, this to me was a soft pilot for Legacy.
Yeah.
I think that's what we need, is that teaser, because here's the thing, you can't give us all the stuff that they gave in the last few minutes of this episode screams spinoff series.
Yeah.
Screams it. Like,
Yep.
why would you rename the ship Enterprise and do all these things? Okay. I would have understood everything as just very nice warm hug, fan service. Thank you. I appreciate it. Great. But once you did the thing with Q, no, exactly. Now you can't. Now you've got to go and give more.
Yeah. Because
you've pretty much like intentionally made a point of this is not so much a cliffhanger, but this is the start of what will be this next series. And I'm fine with if Patrick Stewart wants to come back he can come back for half the daggone season, whatever. Yep. Do whatever you want. Just call it Star Trek Legacy. Let's move on to this next series where we can pull from all the other, prior 90s series. And here's the thing. I don't think that's giving up on the whole concept of this new Star Trek, because I do not agree to this whole hashtag not my Trek, or no, there's no good Star Trek that's since the 90s and all that. Yeah. Well, here's something that I think that a lot of folks forget, and I'm sure you'll know this when I start talking about it. But when TNG was going to be coming out, going to be premiering, oh my God, there's not going to be Kirk, Spock, McCoy. Nope, I'm done. I'm not watching Next Generation. Forget about it. Yep. Well, that came out. It was great. Everyone loved it. Yep. And then the next series, wait a minute, there's going to be a black man that's in command of the space station? Fuck no, I'm not watching this. It's ridiculous. Yep. And he's a single father? Blasphemy. I'm not watching this. Great show. Absolutely spectacular. Yep. Then wait a minute, there's going to be a woman that's captain of a starship? Great. She's going to want to set the thing for self-destruct every month or some shit or whatever. The Trek beards were saying that. I'm not watching it. Ridiculous. It's not my Star Trek. Okay. So here's the thing. Every series gets that. Yep. Everyone says, I'm not watching this. It's not my Star Trek, et cetera, et cetera. You end up liking it anyway. Yeah. Or you do what I did, which I have absolutely no interest whatsoever in Lower Decks. Right. I'm not into the comedy. I'm not into Star Trek being over the top irreverent. I'm not into that. But somebody is. Yes. And I was first couple seasons. Yeah. I was okay with it, but it's just it doesn't do it for me anymore. It really doesn't. But you are not going to say that someone who likes it is not a Trekkie. Exactly. Yeah. If you like it, I'm not going to say you're not a Trekkie. Yeah. I mean, we laugh all the time on our podcast about, like, I am an action movie fan. Like, I love the some of the things in Voyager. We did an episode on our favorite two-parters, and mine was The Killing Game, which, if you remember, is the one where the Hirogen, who were hunting them literally like animals, commandeer Voyager and have a holodeck battle in World War II. Yep. It's all about the action and the intrigue and the trying to take back the ship, like physically take back the ship. And that is my cup of tea. Sarah loves comedy. Now, I don't know that she's watched Lower Decks at all, but she'd probably like it where I wouldn't. And that's okay. It is. It's okay not to like something. Yep. It's okay to like it. It's okay not to like it. Yeah. To me, Lower Decks has become nothing more than a reference show. I think it started well, but now it relies on the crass humor, stuff that I don't think is more shock value than funny. It lives off of making references to every other show in past of Star Trek, which I thought was cool. It was okay starting out. But now you've been doing that for 4 seasons, and it seems to be the main thing you've got going on. And once, and here's where I stopped being a fan of Lower Decks. If it hadn't, it was waning way before this, but when I was done was the episode with the exocomp peanut hamper and the bird dude. That was it.
No idea.
I was,
but
have you? So you may not have. Okay, let me just.
I've not seen any of it other than clips because it just holds no interest for me.
Well, you save yourself that. Yeah. let me just. I'll leave it at that. But let me just say that I did not think that there would be an episode or a point in Star Trek for me that I would say this is what did it for me on this series.
Yeah.
And when we talked about that one in the episode review that we did on one of our reviews for Beyond Trek podcast, I actually typed out bullet points, like 8 or 9 of them on this episode of the problem I had. I usually go off the cuff. You can ask those guys. I don't type up stuff hardly ever and print it out and have it there. It was boom. Okay, here it is. Here's my clipboard. This was so bad that I wrote it down. You know, you're not in good form if the guy that's known for going off the cuff, me, writes something down. If I've got something to say to you and my beef is that big, or I have, a piece of paper and some notes, you screwed up.
Yeah.
So then, okay, so that's, I hopefully I'm not alone in saying that if we don't get an extension of this series into what's been proposed, that's going to be the big beef that I have.
Yeah.
And really, I think that's, if I were going to say, well, Big J, what's the beef you've got about this episode of Picard? It's not the episode itself. It's that I feel like my emotions are being played with because I'm getting this set up for another series.
Yeah. And
I feel like I'm antsy. It's like, okay, come on, say something. Say it should be happening. Yeah. It's a no-brainer. Why are they waiting? It's don't tease me with this announcement. But I would have to say that my prediction is that they would be crazy not to go that route. The reason we have Strange New Worlds is because of the fans.
Yeah. They loved Pike and that crew so much.
Yes.
That they went, please give it to us.
They hammered and hammered anyone who would listen all over the place. It went viral. So fans have made a difference several times in the history of Trek.
Yes.
So don't give up. Don't stop thinking that there's some influence we have because we have Strange New Worlds because of it. Star Trek is still a thing because of the fans.
Absolutely.
It could have been 3 seasons of the original series. It was going to be 2.
Yeah.
Actually, if not for Lucille Ball, we would not have had the 3rd season.
Yep.
And then after that, if not for the fans syndication, we wouldn't have had any of it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And
I know that story, right?
I do. Yeah.
Lucille Ball. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Because, it was at Desilu Studios. That's where it was filmed. And, the people who believed in it let it go longer than the higher ups really wanted it to. And fans writing in literal, back then it had to be physical letters and phone calls,
right?
And they did it and brought it back in the movies. And then we got TNG. And then, of course, TNG blew up and they went, all right, let's ride this train. And we got some amazing television and some great movies. And, I'm someone who I actually like the Kelvin movies. A lot of people don't.
Sure.
Like that. Yeah. That is one thing that some people will say that's not Star Trek. That is taking off of Star Trek. It's great. And as someone who likes a little bit of action and all of that sort of thing, I loved it. Now, I don't know how much you can put into, hearing rumors and all of that sort of thing. But I know Sarah on our podcast, she actually worked out in Hollywood for a little while.
Oh.
And so she has some connections. Not anything official or anything like that. It's mostly hearing things through Twitter and stuff like that. But she said to me the other day, she's like, there's already rumblings of a potential 7 Janeway storyline for something.
Really?
Which, there could be something along those lines as far as legacy. If you've got 7
Again, great
as the
first
captain.
season of Legacy would be, you've got 7 as captain, something with Janeway as admiral. There you go. Boom.
Yeah.
Season 1 Legacy.
And you've got Jack dealing with Q. And, the Voyager crew dealt with Q. So, they can,
connections there.
You've got all sorts of things. Now, as someone who is a seasoned Marvel fan, when this episode was ending, you said you almost didn't watch through the credits. I went, oh, I am watching these credits.
You're right.
Heck yeah, I am watching these credits.
You would think that after all these years of Marvel movies that people would just be trained to sit through credits of anything.
Well, as soon as it went all the way back to getting 7 contemplating what her sort of catchphrase was going to be. And we get that drawing a breath and cut. And
what was her catchphrase?
It wasn't.
No, I'm asking you, what was it? What was it going to be? What was supposed to be her?
I have no idea. I tried to come up with something, and I tried to even think back to what Janeway's was. And I don't think she had one as concrete as Picard did.
I guess she didn't.
Yeah, nothing as, we didn't have the punch it from Pike or.
So you had Pike, Picard.
Yep.
You know what? I think now that you mentioned that, they're creating something that wasn't really a thing, that they're making a thing that's making us think this was a thing. The only punchlines have been from Picard and Pike. I can't think of.
And Picard had 2.
Right, he had 2.
Engage and make it so.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then,
now they're turning it into you've got a captain's catchphrase.
And we do get a little bit of that. I think, I've only seen a couple episodes so far of Strange New Worlds. Love it. We're getting, a little bit of that sort of thing with that version of Pike. We had the Kelvin version of Pike had a very definite catchphrase.
Yeah.
But, as soon as they did that scene and then they went to wrapping up with the TNG crew and they had that overhead shot of the poker game, which was lovely. I thought that was visually nice.
Yeah.
It was the perfect ending to that crew because it's an ending of, look, they're all still together. That's the ending we want for them.
Yes, they're all together.
They're
not
all
the
together.
Whole splitting off, going other places that Nemesis
absolutely
did.
And then the fact that they didn't fade that out to black and play the rest of the credits and stuff. And I just went, I am letting this run until the episode turns itself off.
There's no fading happening. There's no fading. What's going on?
There is something afoot here. So I was not surprised at all when we get, all of a sudden we're back with Jack and he's unpacking in his quarters. And
where could they be going with this?
Yeah, I had no idea where they were going to go, but I was surprised and not surprised when it was Q. I mean, surprised in the, oh crap, it's Q.
Right.
They went there.
Yes. You go there. If you go there, you better be serious about what you're going to give us next.
Exactly. But I was not surprised in that makes total sense of who can we bring back that can come absolutely out of nowhere.
Yep.
And that's cute. And
Yep.
in fact, I mean, he basically even says it like, you're thinking way too linearly.
Yeah. I'm shocked. They had me.
Yeah.
But here's my first thought. So when Seven was about to say her thing, what jumped in my head? Larry the Cable Guy. I thought for sure. Have you ever listen to his kind of?
I've
got this
heard
catchphrase.
some, but yeah.
His catchphrase is "Get her done," and that was what I thought. Yes, that's going to be Seven's. Get her done.
Oh dear, yeah. No, that would be interesting, and it would be funny if we do get a legacy show. There are two ways they could play that. They could play that of the show basically picks up with Seven finishes that line.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like you're striking the match, and that's going to be the flame that carries through it. Or we're never going to know. They could play it.
Can't toy with my emotions like that.
They could spin that out for as long as possible of never having her say, whatever it is, like,
so we can have a
execute or whatever it was going to be.
So you're talking about like having a whole series, episodes, whatever it is, but every time right before she says that, it cuts to the next scene.
Or
spectacular.
Or somebody else says it, somebody else, like she has Rafi tell or she'll say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And then she leaves the bridge and they just do it. Or, we
it's a little meta, but I'll allow it.
Yeah. It would be strange. I think the other direction is much easier and probably more impactful. But see, that's the kind of thing that I would find funny.
Yeah.
Is to play it out like that. But yeah.
Then you must have liked the season 2 trailer for Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Did you watch that one?
No, because I haven't seen the whole first season.
Well, okay. Let me just tell you that the trailer for season 2 has something to do with what we're talking about.
Okay.
I won't say which part because I'm trying to very carefully get away from the spoiler stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me just say you'll like it. But yes,
I'm sure I will. That's the kind of thing that I find funny. I find, characters who are casually witty, or it's a funny turn of phrase, or it's the editing of the scene that makes it funny. I mean,
Worf.
Well, I found Worf in this series odd. There were times where it worked for me, and there were times where it didn't.
Really?
Yeah. And so
that's everything he said, because he didn't say much, but what he did say was gold.
Well, there were a lot of things that, yes, I was like, okay, yeah, that's awesome. But there were other things where I'm like, okay, maybe I need to go back and watch the end of Deep Space Nine and all that kind of stuff to get back to where I'm like, where does this Zen Worf come from? Like that was where I was a little lost. I'm just like, maybe I'm not remembering things correctly here to have gotten to that.
There's a lot of time that went between when we last saw him. And that's the other thing that we have to not lose sight of is, so last time we saw any of these people was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
In show time. There's all kinds of, he could have gone Zen a few months after Nemesis. Who knows? They've got 20 years of time span that a lot could have happened. Apparently he has something to do with whatever happened with the Enterprise E. And, which he said, that was not my fault.
Yeah.
Loved it. That was great.
Yeah. See, that I love as that to me is comedy. That I laughed at that. That was great.
That was great. And on the bridge of the Enterprise D, when Picard told Beverly he was going for their son. And Riker said, that makes two of us. And Worf says, and I will make it a threesome.
Yes. See,
that, like, you even hear yourself?
That one I found, see, I guess because I'm not one to go for I'm usually the one that the slightly off color joke goes right over my head. I mean, I did catch that one. What I thought was funnier was Worf falling asleep.
That was great. Yes. Yes. Doze right.
I'm like, that was because all through this, Worf was kind of the one that seemed the least old.
Yep.
I mean, yes, he had white hair, but he was still physically active. He had not been put in a position where he was a desk jockey or anything like that. You know, he was probably the more out front and active, other than Dr. Crusher. I mean, she's been out there, you know, saving the universe, just her and her son. Then to have it end with Worf just quietly snoring in the chair, it was that's great. That to me is hilarious.
He had a long day.
Yeah, no kidding. But I thought that was bringing Worf in as Rafi's contact.
Yes.
I loved that because I did not see that coming. I was wondering where Worf was going to come in because obviously we're getting the whole TNG crew back. So he's got to come in from somewhere. And I knew, you know, they were going to have to find a way to bring Data back in because I knew he was going to be back. You know, Geordi, I mean, obviously, it's pretty easy to have him just be doing something cool with Starfleet, which he was. But to have Worf show up and just that, you know, I told you not to get involved.
Right.
It's just like, yes.
Well, and I thought that the way that everyone came back in was, I'm glad that it wasn't that everybody was out on vacation or retirement.
Yeah.
There was a logical reasoning. There was a good placement for all of these people. Geordi was a Commodore. He's running the starbase. That is the museum.
Yeah.
You've got Worf, who's the Section 31 contact. That's special intelligence. That's right up his alley.
Yep.
Data, you're right. How are we going to get him again? He's died twice now. Well, the way that he was brought in, how that was explained and everything, great. Everybody had a reason. It was not just a cameo show.
Yeah.
These people were all still active at some point.
Even having Deanna come back as a hostage.
Yes.
You know, I mean, because Riker purposely left her safely back on the planet taking care of their daughter.
Yes.
How are we going to get her back in?
That would have been the one that would have been the most susceptible to being a cheesy, offhand kind of a bring in. I think that was perfect. I hopefully they had learned, because Worf being in First Contact made lots of sense. He was on the Defiant. The Defiant was made for this. Insurrection, he just happened to be in the neighborhood and was like, what the hell, I'll just hitch a ride. No, Nemesis, last we saw him on DS9, he was going to be the ambassador to, and now suddenly, so now you're not doing that anymore, you're on the Enterprise again. It was those two ham-fisted, Insurrection and Nemesis were two ham-fisted inclusions of Worf that did not make sense.
Yeah.
In First Contact, it did. Those other two, it did not. So I'm glad that they brought these characters in the way they did, because they were not ham-fisted in. It was not a reunion show.
Yeah.
Everyone who was there.
It was an accidental reunion.
Yes.
Other than Picard going to Riker for help. You know, that was an immediate, but who else would he go to?
Mm-hmm.
That made perfect sense. And then, oh, by the way, the person we're searching for just happens to be Beverly Crusher.
Yes.
And then, that brings in, oh, by the way, we need help with this, kind of nefarious behind the scenes thing. Oh, by the way, Worf's in counterintelligence. That works. Okay, we get there and we find that the security system is Data.
Yes.
All right, that works.
Okay, makes sense. All right.
Yeah.
And now we got to go hide out somewhere.
Yep.
And Geordi's a Commodore of a starbase. He can hide us for a little bit. So it all made sense along the way.
Yeah.
So that was great. So I want to say thank you very much for bringing this insight in this and talking about the episode. It sounds like we enjoyed the same things and we're hoping for the same things coming up.
So.
So the gist of it is that we need a Star Trek Legacy series. We are okay with fan service. It's not a bad thing. Give us the nostalgia. We earned it. I'm not saying we deserved it. I think we've earned it. There are fans that have stuck through thick and thin, everything, no questions asked. Let's just throw us a little something. And I think that you can't go wrong by having a series that pulls from the golden age of Trek, which was in the 90s.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. So let's do it. And as I hope 7 of 9 is going to say in Star Trek Legacy, get her done.
Where's the beef? We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your ears. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.